Hey everybody, Unstable Gamer here, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth. Today we're going to be taking a look at the first chapter of Mines of Moria and the strategies that I have for you that will be able to help you max out your points and really understand the raid. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that. But first, before we do, if you're just now finding this channel and you want to stay up to date with this and other games, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out. All right, and welcome back. So let's just go ahead, jump into this. Mines of Moria, the raid that has finally come to the game, that is going to be released in chapters. We have access to chapter 1 right now. So let's go ahead and jump into there. So what I have for you is I've got 5 tips I want to go through, and then I've got some suggested teams. If you haven't seen my Are You Prepared Yet for the Raid video, it's pretty similar to that. So if you haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and put a link up to it right over here. But our first chapter here, you can see it's 61% complete. So you need to get 100% complete here in order to unlock chapter 2. We'll go over that in a different video. But once the raid resets, you have your 2,000 keys and you go back in there. Then you just continually go in there and get as many points as you can so you can unlock chapter 2, which I think is at, you need 17 million. Let's go ahead and talk about points and the teams here. So the goal here is to score as many points as possible, obviously. Gain 5 points for every percentage of health lost. Very minimal points there. 500 points for every defeated orc. Whenever 2 or more enemies are defeated in a single turn, you get 2,500 points for every orc defeated that way. This is where AoE really comes into play and why it's so good to have AoE teams and why they're so strong in Chapter 1. And then gain 2,500 points for every enemy orc defeated by the bomber. Now the bomber, that is the key. As the developer said, the linchpin to this raid and where you're going to score most of your points. We'll talk about my strategy here in just a second. First tip, practice. Practice, practice, practice as much as you can. You can go into the raid, do it as many times as you want, as long as you don't submit, hit that submit button. As long as you don't save the points that you earned, you can retry it as many times as you want. Now, the reason why that's so critical is because it's kind of like a puzzle, right? RNG comes into play with this raid a fair amount, really in the form of what orcs are going to refill in the next wave that's coming on for you to defeat. Is the war guard going to pop up? Are you going to be able to get the bomber to drop his explosive? So some RNG there. So practice as much as you can. Don't bank your points until you feel that you've got it. You've gone as far as you can, and you've gained as many points as you possibly can. Then you go ahead and bank it. You really want to max it. So if you're maxing, if you start at difficulty 1 and you maxed 100,000 points, then go to difficulty 2. Try that. See if you can gain more than 100,000 points on that, because difficulty 2 maxes out at 300,000. If you can get more than 100,000 but not max difficulty 2, that's okay. Do difficulty 2 because you're going to score more points than if you were to cap out on difficulty 1. Once you hit the max score, that's going to end the battle for you automatically. You don't have to continue battling until everybody dies. You hit your max score, it ends the battle completely. Then you can either continue and save that, or you can discard it, try the next difficulty, see if you can get higher. So practice, practice, practice. Next, test out the highest difficulty. We just talked about that. If you do that, go as high as you can on the difficulty. And if you can't score what the max is of the previous difficulty, so if you can't score, say you only score 50,000 on difficulty 2, right? That you can score a lot more on difficulty 1. You can max out at 100,000. So if you can't hit at least the minimum of the previous difficulty's max score, then just drop down to difficulty. Otherwise, go as high as you can in the difficulties. That way you get as many points as you can. So those are your first 2. Second, leave the bomber alone. So let's take a look at the bomber here. My suggestion here is you just leave the bomber alone until he gets his Don't Rush Me. So right here, blast it. Right there, consume all stacks of the Don't Rush Me. So you want to you don't want to take him out, because every time you take him out, he's going to come back. He's going to gain more turn meter. So just leave him. My strategy in this whole thing is I will reduce the health bars. I won't kill anybody, but I'll reduce the health bars of every other orc on the battlefield. Keep them as low as I can without killing them if I can help it, but keep them as low as I can. So then when the bomber hits the Don't Rush Me, then what you're going to do is you're just going to use your basics on the bomber. Don't use any other attack. Any dodgeable attack the bomber is going to evade. You want to rack up those stacks right there to at least 8, 9, or 10, right? Obviously 10 is going to be the max, I think. But 8 or more stacks is where he really drops it more consistently, because for every stack is a 10% chance for him to drop his explosive. So at 8 stacks, it's going to be 80%. So you can do the math there, up and down. But I really do save him in last. And the reason for that is because if I keep everybody low, and then I get him up to his 8, 9, 10 stacks, then he's going to drop his explosive, and then he's going to take everybody out, and I get 2,500 points for each one taken out in that manner. So it's really going to maximize your scores there. So if I can help it, I don't take anybody out. There are a couple challenges with that. It's number one, you have the healer. The healer does heal a fair amount. You also got, I believe, the fire starter here. Where's he at? Is it this guy here? No, that's the Skull Crusher guy. The War Guard's not even here. Where's the dude? I think it's that guy, actually. Yeah, this guy. So he grants Eagle Eye and advantage to all squad members. He's a little bit irritating. So if you don't take care of him right off the bat, they get a little bit buffed. I take my chances on that, just because I want to maximize my score as much as possible. So, covered that. Next is the enemies you do want to take out, all right, is the War Guard. As soon as a War Guard spawns, he's got his shield. He can taunt. Now, that's going to really hurt you once your bomber throws up the Don't Rush Me, and then you're not going to be able to rack up those stacks. So you definitely want to take care of those guards. But also, if you do have a War Guard up there and you got a Don't Rush Me, save your AoEs for situations like that. Because obviously an AoE is going to hit the Don't Rush Me bomber, and then it's going to rack up those stacks. So this is where AoE comes in and is very strong. I'll show you the team that I used. I did max out difficulty 2, and it worked out pretty well. I did a little modification to a team that I suggested, though. So we'll go over that in just a second. But take out those War Guards as quickly as you can. Sometimes 2 or 3 pop up, and it's just crazy. Again, RNG really comes into play here with the War Guards, when they spawn, how many they spawn, and again, how many attacks you can get in on that Don't Rush Me bomber to drop his explosive. So, if you don't get the bomber to drop the first time, this is my next tip. I think we've already on number 5. If you don't get that bomber to drop his explosive on the first round, exit, go back in. Just quit. Don't worry about it. You want to make sure that you get him to drop his explosive the very first time around to really kind of get that momentum and really to rack up your score. So, just kind of keep an eye on that as well. And then if you get some waves or you just got a ton of War Guards, then I'd back out of that too and go back in, depending on where you are with your score in relation to what the max amount of points for that difficulty is. Now, as far as teams go, the teams that really work well, and that worked for me, let me go in here. Rivendell, the reason why Rivendell works out so well is because you got slow, especially with Elrond's AoE. That helps quite a bit. You can slow down, especially when you have an AoE slow or turn meter reduction, then that's going to allow you, obviously, more turns so that you can get more hits on the Don't Rush Me bomber. So they've got slow heals, they've got dispels, evades, obviously the AoE, the turn meter decrease. Worked out really well. Now for here, I took out, what is his name? Aylmer, the elf, the Rivendell elf that I'm not a huge fan of, just because I think he's the weakest link in this team. And I put in Ironhide. And the reason for that is because his AoE, and obviously he's got a dispel with his AoE also, and it works out pretty well. He's got 2 AoEs here. That really helped me quite a bit. So as you can see on difficulty 2, I did max that score. My next one down here, the second team I suggest is Road to Rivendell. They're great for Chapter 1 here. The reason why is because they got stamina gains, they've got assists, heals, they've got turn meter gains, haste, which works out really well. Again, the more opportunities you have to attack, then the quicker you can get that Don't Rush Me bomber up to the 8, 9, and 10 stacks that you need in order for him to drop his explosive. The next one is Rohan. Rohan, the reason why I suggest them is because they've got AoEs, they've got heals, they've got assists. The assists come in to play quite often as well, just like with the Rivendell team, not Rivendell team, but with the Road to Rivendell, because obviously you hit the bomber, you get an assist coming in, you rack up again as quickly to 8 charges, 9 and 10 as you can. And the next one is Isengard. I used Isengard. It worked okay. They've got some haste, some turn meter gain. Not the best, but they did work out fairly well. But those 4 teams seemed to work out awesome. I did hear some people using Mordor teams also. But I think by far the top 2 teams in here is going to be your Rivendell team and then your Road to Rivendell team. A lot of Rivendell teams. So those are the tips that I have for Mines of Moria Chapter 1. What tips did I miss? What worked well for you? Who are your favorite teams? What was your max score and your max difficulty? I'm very curious on that, especially in relation to what teams you used, because I think that would help everybody as well. If I missed any tips or if you have any great tips to share, put them in the comment section, again, so everybody can benefit. All right, everybody, that is what I had for you. As always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.